Well, hi, it's Jerry with I Love RV Life. Today I want to share with you my tips how I not only work, but run my business from my RV. Well, hi, it's Jerry, and we get so many questions. How do you work from the road? Everything from technology to processes. And I want to share those with you today. As a corporate traveler, I traveled over 2 million air miles. Yes, I did, 2 million air miles. That's a ton. And sometimes stayed in hotel rooms in excess of 200 hotel rooms a year. My territory from certain times went from Canada, coast to coast United States, Central America, and all of the Caribbean. Wow, did I spend a lot of time on the road, in planes, in hotel rooms. But now with our RV, we get to do it both mixed pleasure and travel along with our work, and it's really great to be able to do that. So I'm going to give you my tips. One of the things about having that type of corporate travel for all these years was a refined process how to work from the road, and we have adapted that inside of our fifth wheel. So I'm going to give you those tips, and I think you're going to enjoy them. Here's number one. Well, number one, the types of work. Now, the work I'm going to be talking about today is not what you would typically hear when people talk about work camping. What I typically put in that category are things such as campground host, or working in an Amazon fulfillment center, or you hear about the beet fields, those types of things where you're actually going outside your camper and doing physical work, or working in an office, or working outside. I'm going to be talking about the type of desk work that you can do, service work. So one of the things that I'm going to put on the website is a sheet, and I went out on the web and looked at the types of jobs and actually found some information about what are the top 20 services that you could use to work either at home or your RV. The nice thing about it is your RV is your home, and you can work all this type of work from a desk-bound position. Let me give you a few of those of what you might want to consider. Something like a virtual assistant. Interestingly enough, I have a web design and internet marketing business called Macon, that's M-A-C-O-N, MaconWebDesigns.com. You can see that. And we do internet marketing for a number of companies, typically small businesses. So I have a number of clients that use virtual assistants. Wow. That is a big market right now, and actually I know several people that do that type of work. Medical transcriptionists, translators is big. Wow, we do a lot of work where we do YouTube work for businesses, and translator work for subtitles is a big deal. So if you have a second language you're fluent in, that's a big deal. A web developer and designer, graphic artist, that's the type of work I do. Call centers, tech support, supporting people's computer needs, travel agents. I've got a friend that does that on the road. Writers, editors. We have a retired editor that works for one of my clients. I could go on and on. So instead of just going through this entire list, at ilovervlife.com at the end of this video, I will put a link on the location where you can get today's notes and blogs, and you can actually download this list. And I think that'll be helpful as you start doing that. You can do that research and see if any of these fit you for your needs while you're traveling out on the road. Number two, workspace. Workspace is very important to me. I not only want to be comfortable in my position, but I want it to where I can work as fast as possible and provide good quality product. I do a lot of fixed fee work, so I'm working for X amount of dollars. The less time I spend on it, the greater my profit margins will be. On the flip side of that, sometimes I do hourly work. And my clients, even though they may be paying for the hours, just because I'm inefficient, they're not going to pay for me to be spending an exorbitant amount of time being able to make a deliverable for them, spending hours and hours just because I've got poor workspace. Look, I could work at the coffee shops that have good Wi-Fi. You know which ones they are. I could work at the sandwich shops. They've got good Wi-Fi. You know which ones they are too. But I'll talk more about tech later. I need this space. I want it quiet where I can handle calls. And I want it to sound professional, not a lot of background noise from that perspective. And then I want to be able to spread everything out. Let me show you my workspace. So I'm fortunate enough that I actually have a desk area. This was a dinette. This dinette will actually turn to where it was capable of seating 4. I keep talking about remodeling this and putting in a desk, but honestly, this is meeting all my needs. One of the things that you'll notice is I have a nice, comfortable office chair. Look, those things are $100 to $150 for a nice, comfortable chair at your big box store. And if you're going to be sitting in this thing for a long period of time, you want to be comfortable. I'll also talk about the tech here in just a little bit. I'm not going to address it at this time, but you see I've got the 2 big monitors. I do a ton of work where I need 2 monitors. And this workspace really is great for us. Now let me turn this around for you. Looking from this angle, you can see where the dinette was, and it's right in the middle of the living space, right across from the kitchen. It doesn't matter that I'm using this converted dinette space. Look, I've looked at Class B's to where you can turn the driver and the passenger seats around, have a very comfortable seat with a fold-out table that you can work from. Those are fantastic. I've also seen Class C's and Class A's and other types of pull-behind campers that actually have a booth dinette area. As long as you're comfortable, you've got desk space to spread everything out. Those are great work environments. But when you talk about work environment in the RV, there's, let's put it like this, there's got to be at least some type of a handshake arrangement with the person that you're traveling with. And that, for me, is Joan, my wife. So if I'm in here working, sometimes I'll just put on some headphones and put on a little bit of jazz in the background, and I just work up a storm. And she can watch TV over here, and it doesn't bother me at all. But if I'm going to be having client calls, well, that's the time that we both agree that she's going to turn the TV off, and she might sit over there and read a book, or she might go outside, or she goes back into the back bedroom and turns the TV back there on and puts on her favorite little House of the Prairie DVD. Yeah, we've got all 9 seasons. But the big issue is we can separate and still be able to have space to work and then create that professional environment, especially when I have to have phone calls and things like that. So there has to be a little bit of give and take between both parties if you're going to be working here full time. Workspace is very important. It doesn't matter whether you're in a camper, it doesn't matter whether you're in a fifth wheel or a Class A, Class B, Class C, or even a Prevost. A Prevost? Why did I say that? If I owned a Prevost, I've got enough money I don't have to work. Well, I digress a little bit. You know what I'm talking about. Workspace is important. My third tip is work schedule. Work schedule. So I have defined times. Depending on some of these businesses that I shared with you, you may actually have defined times that you have to cut out of your day. You might be working, depending on which coast you're on, you might be working odd hours to be able to meet your client needs. Or if you're doing something like I do, service work, I actually slice out periods of time depending on project when I'm going to be doing work. Let me give you a for instance. Let's say I'm taking Monday off. Not a problem with doing that. I still might handle a client call if they have need, but I will not do any production work during that day. Tuesday might be a work day. Wednesday, I might be working that morning. Thursday, I might be working that evening. Friday, I might get to take off. Saturday, oh my goodness, I've got something very, very important and I might have to work. Having that flexibility in your work schedule to where you can do your billable hours and meeting your client needs is incredibly, incredibly important. Something else when we talk about schedule, typically when we're moving from one campsite to the other, we'll travel on the weekend. We'll do that as a Saturday or we'll do that as a Sunday going from point A to point B. 2 reasons I like to do that. One, Usually you don't run into rush hour and have a lot of traffic, but more important to that, I'm going to have less client calls for the type of business that I have. So depending on who you're working with and what your client base is and the type of service that you're going to be having from your RV, you'll want to strongly consider, what is my work schedule and how do I fit everything in? But regardless, I have found in my workflow, we can have a blast traveling, and I can still meet 100% of my client needs. Very, very important to manage that schedule. Number 4, services. Services are incredibly important to me. Number 1, certain services allow me to be very, very efficient. Certain cloud-based services allow me to save money. Another big issue when you're running your own business or you're freelancing. Services allows me to manage my schedule. I couldn't do it without, and just be able to give that high-end business look. So let's talk about a couple of these. First of all, G Suite from Google. I use Gmail, use it like crazy, but the difference is I went out and acquired my web address, my URL. So as an example, ilovervlife.com, and I can assign my email address to that through G Suite. You can go out and look at that. I won't go through all the details how to set it up. Google does a fantastic job. Cost me $5 a month, cheap. Tons of email space, and then some other services as well. So that's very, very important. Next, Google Calendar. Oh my goodness. I don't know what I would do without Google Calendar. I've been using Google Calendar as long as there has been one, and I use it like crazy. It has all the destinations where we're going to be going mapped out with addresses and dates and those types of things. All my client meetings that I'm going to be having. And the other thing that I can do with that too, and it adds that level of professionalism, I can go and set a date, and then I can send that date to my client so that they can confirm that we're going to have a meeting on that date. I think that's very, very important. It also adds a level of professionalism on top of that as well. I use it as my project manager, so I know that on Monday morning, I'm going to be doing this task. On Tuesday afternoon, I'm going to be doing this task. On Wednesday, I'm taking off. On Thursday, I'm going to be working all day doing these 10 things. And I can actually have those listed not only as to-do list, but I can estimate the hours and make sure that it's going to fit the amount of time. I absolutely love Google Calendar, and I could not run a business without it. I share that calendar too, so especially with certain freelancers that I work with, they know what days that I'm going to be available. I share it with Joan so that she'll know what days I'm going to be available to her as well. That's important, right? So I'm going to be sharing that as well. It's just an incredible tool. Next, file services, cloud-based services. G Suite has some of those, but I prefer using something called Dropbox. If you're familiar with Dropbox, you can get a free account that has 2 gig, and for $99 a year, you can get a business class service that has 1 terabyte of storage. I use Dropbox like crazy for a couple reasons. All my critical files are backed up into Dropbox. So critical files are things like contracts, various information like that I might need to get while I'm out on the road in case something catastrophic happens. Second to that, it's a great place to be able to share file services. So let's say I'm doing some graphic art for a flyer or a trifold or a billboard or whatever that I'm doing. I can share that file with the client before we send it to the printers or send it to the billboard service. If I'm doing certain pieces of artwork or even small videos that we can share back and forth, I can share those on Dropbox. And the nice thing about it is I don't have to give them access to my Dropbox account. I don't even have to have them have a Dropbox account, which is even better. That's the big benefit over the G Suite, in my opinion. I can send them a link, they can log into it, they can download, they can move forward. Wow, Dropbox has really superbly increased my workflow if those adjectives work together. Lastly, I have the rare need of receiving fax. Yes, in this day of cloud-based services, I still have to receive faxes. Most of the time it's from things like contracts or credit card authorization forms, those types of things that you typically get. And there's even times, I'll give you for instance, I have to send a fax out. I use a service called MyFax. The service is fantastic. You can get a basic service for $5 and then it goes up from there. I use the $5 service. I can receive or send 50 faxes a month. Far exceeds my needs. Those are the primary services that I use. Huge, huge benefit. Okay, we're getting close to the end. Number 5, I'm going through these as quickly as possible. Technology. Look, I'm working outside of an RV and sometimes way out places. Again, look at this. This was when we were in Arkansas and at Maumelle Corps of Engineer Park. Look at the view that I had there. Absolutely fantastic. This is my view from just a couple weeks ago when we were in Gadsden, Alabama. Oh my goodness, that's a view of Black Creek. Is that absolutely beautiful? One of the benefits about being able to have RV travel, even if you have to work, are these really $1,000,000 views that you have right outside your window. How awesome is that? Sometimes distracting too, but it really helps me at least in my creativity and my productivity, where I can just take, hey, I get up, 10-minute break, go outside and just be able to absorb that. It's just absolutely fantastic. But technology is very, very key. And here's why. First of all, I've got to have very reliable service when I'm using the internet. I cannot use park Wi-Fi. I really can't wait to go to the coffee shop. I can't wait to go to the sandwich shop. I can't do that. I've got to have good Wi-Fi that's very fast, it's very reliable. This is a Verizon MiFi device. I've talked about this before from an entertainment perspective, but this thing is absolutely fantastic. This is a service now offered by Verizon. They've had MiFis for a long time, but this is a prepay service that I'm using. Unlimited access, $65 a month billed on a credit card. I can do anything and everything that I want. I can do all of my development. I can upload to YouTube. I can upload my websites, gigantic pictures. I can do email. We can take a break in the evening and watch Fire Stick. Look, this thing is just absolutely fantastic, and I put a lot of bandwidth through this thing. Best bargain around, and it's extremely reliable. I will say this, I do have a second one too. I also have one through AT&T. With my business and moving sometimes week to week to week or every 2 weeks depending on what our schedule is, I've had on rare occasions Verizon not work well, but AT&T does work well. So I've got to use both of those, and that's very unique to my business. But when I need Wi-Fi, whether it's going to be a WebEx training or a GoToMeeting training, works absolutely fantastic. So I'm very pleased with this. I shared with you a few minutes ago my workspace. I'm not going to turn the PC on, but these are two relatively large monitors, and because of the type of business that I do, I might have websites open on one, Photoshop on another, one of the Premiere suites for doing video on another, who knows what, After Effects. I'm hitting it and getting it. And I really need to be able to have this type of space. So 2 monitors is really big for me. There's something else that goes with 2 monitors. Let me reach down here and pick this thing up. This thing's a monster. This thing is a purpose-built PC, desktop PC. Look, I tried to work with laptops. The type of work that I'm doing, and I'll just mention this to you. If you're big-time graphic editors using a lot of Illustrator, using a lot of Photoshop, you're going to be rendering massive videos, and sometimes I might be doing, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 video edits in one day, big time, and I'm doing a lot of renders. Time's money. So this was a purpose-built PC. So small form factor. I'll go into just a little bit of the technical stuff, so bear with me quickly. This was purpose-built for video editing and graphics. So it's got a high-end graphic card, it's got the i7 processor, it's got a couple solid-state drives, SSD drives in it, a bunch of memory, that type of stuff. And the reason that I needed that was, again, time is money to me. I needed to be able to do edits quickly. I wanted to be able to do storage of very, very large files, and sometimes projects take terabytes, and I wanted to be able to have that kind of space to be able to do that kind of work. And just a laptop was not going to meet my needs. I wish that it was, but it isn't. The second thing for that, because of the good graphic card that I have, I can run double monitors. So again, my workspace is, let's fit it in the screen here. My workspace is very, very large, and I can work back and forth having multiple things open at the same time. I don't have to do the Alt tabs or Control tabs to be able to, or Command tabs to be able to do that, and I can work super fast and get work done. I will mention this quickly. If you are working for a desktop, spend the $100, spend the $150 and get you a UPS. A battery back UPS. I can't tell you how many times I've been in the campground. Boop, the lights flicker. We lost power to the AC, sometimes for 30 seconds, sometimes for a minute, sometimes for hours. But what that's allowed me to do to be able to save my files, safely shut down my desktop environment here, and not lose any of my work. So, you know, again, it's just one of those things of being able to work in a remote location, and sometimes power gets a little bit wonky, and that UPS has saved me a lot of times. I'll share a couple things with you just from experience as well. Working from a laptop. I do carry a laptop when I meet with the clients. I first started off with one of these 13-inch jobs. Loved it really as far as the compact size, those types of things, but I will share with you this. Hunched over this thing for hours, working on websites or working on a Photoshop file will kill you. And that just doesn't work. And really, when I'm sitting down with a client and we're looking at something on a screen, it's really not the best environment. They're cool, they're nice, it just doesn't work for me. I went with something like this. This is one of these really nice Dells. Love this thing. With the big 15-inch screen. I can do some Photoshop work on, and I've sat in that chair right there in the evenings and did some Photoshop work on that as well. I don't do video editing on it, although I can do a little bit if I need to. And it works really great. It's really lightweight. It has great battery. It's got a big 15.5-inch screen, and you can get a lot of work done. So depending on the type of work that you're doing, look, you may not need a high-end desktop that I'm using that costs several $1,000s actually. A good quality laptop, either in the Windows environment or if you're the Apple fan, either one of those will work well for you, especially if you're doing things like medical transcription or coding, or you're doing assistant work or any of those types of things where you're not processing a lot of video files or graphic files. Laptop's going to work fantastic for you. Next, if you're working from an RV, you want one of these. Yes, this is a backup secondary hard drive. I did talk about using services like Dropbox, but again, I've got a couple of these things depending on what project that I'm doing. And this is a big safety factor. You never know if your PC is going to fail. I don't care if you're using a laptop or you're using a desktop. Things go bad. And I have this as my backup. This is an 8 terabyte Western Digital WD Elements. Seagate offers some. There's a couple other manufacturers out there that offer them. I've got a couple of these that I keep around, and I keep them in a little box that's padded. And I keep a card in there, what files or what, you know, big file structures and things like that. But if something catastrophic happened and I was to lose my desktop hard drive, I could always replace that hard drive, grab this thing, back my files up, and I keep going. And I'm really not out of service, but just for the amount of time that it took me to replace my hard drive off of Amazon, whatever that takes. This is a big deal. One last item and I'm through with tech. So let's walk over here at the end of the living room. Yep, that's exactly what it looks like. It is a printer. Now, I don't use this printer that often, maybe a dozen times a year, but when I do need it, wow, is it great. It fits right down in the bottom of that storage. This is a brother. It's one of these multi-function, it's got the scanner that's built in top of it. That's handy when I want to use my fax and I can scan a document and fax it. Sometimes I receive a brochure or a picture from a client. I can scan it. I can do my website work or whatever needs to be done. And on rare occasions, I have to print something out. It doesn't happen very often. Might be tickets to the Grand Ole Opry, or it might be something else that I need. But it's handy to be able to have that. I like the Brothers printers. Look, they're very inexpensive. Sometimes you can buy them for under $100 depending on the features that you want. They're not expensive. The second thing I like about it is you can get the remanufactured ink for them. Very, very cheap. You don't have to buy the expensive stuff for the, and I might use a cartridge maybe once a year, maybe twice a year, not even that sometimes. Usually they dry up before that I can use them, but they're really handy. The other thing, if you'll notice where it's at, and here's my workspace. How does that work, Jerry? Well, you don't have a cable running over there. You're absolutely right. Buy one that is Wi-Fi capable. So it sees my little 8800L Wi-Fi from Verizon. That is a router. And I'm not burning any bandwidth or anything like that. I can print directly to that printer. World's great. I hope you have found this video helpful. I've enjoyed being your work from your RV consultant. It is really a fun lifestyle. Again, working from our RV has allowed Joan and I to be able to have this lifestyle that we have, and we get to see these great places of walking on the beach and beautiful waterfalls and just all the fun stuff we do. If it wasn't from working from our RV, we would not be able to do that. So important, so important. And I hope that you're considering something like this too. If you are, maybe you're currently working in a job that you could be mobile. Talk with your employer about it and see if they would allow you to be able to work from your RV. It's no different than working from home, and be able to enjoy this wonderful world we live in. And then if you're considering something like this and you don't have a job that might be mobile, go to our website. At the very end, I'll have a place that you can click and you will go to the show notes and you can download the list that I have on there and maybe get some ideas and do some research. So thank you so much for watching today. If you haven't subscribed, do so. Give me a thumbs up if you like the video. And look, hey, you know why I do this, right? You got it. It's for one reason only. It's because I love RV life.